So, the thing we are trying to rebuild today is an Arcturus Centaur B, which is just some kind of a weird AK. This thing is actually not changed or in any way, which is good. I like to work on base guns. Yeah, what we are going to do here is change all the parts that make a real difference and leave everything that's quite fine from the beginning. So, as you may see, we already have a warhead motor ready to go, and on the upper right side we see the package of an Perron, and it's an Perron with a trigger board for version 3 gearboxes, because this thing has a micro switch gearbox and we can't just drop in a regular version 3 ETU unit. So what we're going to do is use the Perron trigger board designed exactly for this and add an ETU++ from Perron on the outside. For this is a German gun, this thing will only shoot semi-auto, so we do not need the selector plate. If you are going to do this with a full auto version, of course you need to modify the selector plate a little bit according to Perron's manual, and if you do this, you will be able to fully program your firing modes. This thing, to just get the tension from the gearbox, we don't need anymore, because the Perron will be able to decompress the spring even if we're going for pre-cocking. If you press the trigger for a longer time, this thing will automatically get rid of the tension. So we're going to drop in 16:1 gears with an, oh, this is actually quite nice, with an 35k warhead motor. We're going to shim the sector gear a little bit higher than we would do in a regular build. This is because the ETU unit, the trigger board we're going to drop in, shall not get in contact with the sector gear at any time. If it does, it may get a shortcut, and if it gets a shortcut, we will burn our signal wires and possibly the trigger board. And the trigger board is 20 bucks, so we don't want to do this. And it's 20 bucks plus we need to get the box out and repair everything. So something else is stuck here. So this is a tech tip. You realize something else is odd. Now you're searching for it. Everything here seems to be fine. The gears moving perfectly, everything's good. We are adding shims, trying again. Blah blah blah. So we're doing this a lot of times. Everything the box locks up. Every time the box locks up. And then we may realize this thing here gets in touch with the tappet plate part of the sector gear. So the little notch that pulls the tappet plate backwards just gets in touch with the tappet plate channel. Yeah, that's a channel? I don't know. Whatever. We just remove it a little bit, so the sector gear may spin freely. This is quite common if you drop in Silverline gears, for example, Red Dragon gears, the cheap ones, because they have a little bit bigger tappet plate thingy on the sector gear, and if you got the right ones, this will just damage the sector plate thing until it moves. But yeah, this is not really what you want, so check it before. So this is not perfect, but okay. We're gonna shim a little bit and then we should be fine. This is the trigger board version 3 and ETU++ full package thing. It's about 90 bucks, which is quite okay for an ETU unit. And this thing is quite sturdy. Even if you burn the trigger board, you can reuse the ETU unit itself, so the MOSFET will not get damaged even if the signal wires get a shortcut. Anyway, I will clean up the surface here, because I don't want to have excessive grease on a micro switch. So this thing is meant to get pressed by a sector gear notch, and we can actually try this after putting everything in. If the motor is not connected, the Perron unit will go to trial mode, whatever. The Perron will allow you to check all the all the switches, so you can check if the trigger switch is working, the selector switch is working, the cutoff is working. For this project, of course, only the trigger and the cutoff is needed, because this will be a semi-only gun. But I highly recommend you to really try out the sector switch and make sure the sector switch is always pressed if you are going to get over it, and you don't want to go too far, so it's unpressed again if you're pushing the selector completely, because these switches are only meant to be pressed from one side. So if you're going backwards with the selector plate and you pull the switch, you may just damage it. So make sure it's long enough to press the switch all the time, and it doesn't get pushed backwards. So this is the actual unit. It's cabled like an G&G unit. It's meant to just be dropped in instead of a G&G unit. It's way better. You can program a ton of things like dual triggers, burst mode, different fire modes. This is quite nice. But actually, yeah, for the German version, of course, it's only precocking and stuff. If it's there is a yellow light blinking, this is the testing mode, and the green light, which just showed up, tells me it checked the selector, the cutoff. So next thing we can try is if the trigger is working. Perron gives us a neat little 3D printed or powder sintered piece, which makes sure that we can use safety afterwards, a mechanical safety. And yeah, this thing needs to press the trigger switch, of course, and it works. You may have seen it, there was a little purple light which indicates I pressed the trigger. So, actually that's it. You can now put everything together, and after that we can just test the gearbox without actually completely reassemble the gun, which is nice. Alright, everything's assembled again. Let's get a battery rocking. For this version, we can program via trigger. This is just for the German only version. So what I'm starting to do now is I fully disassemble precocking and active brake. You may have noticed this is the standard motor, and I just got rid of precocking and stuff cause the warhead motor will not work with that, or not very long. So active brake, warhead, states on his website. It needs to be needs to be off, and the precocking from Perron actually works with active brake, so I just don't use it at all. Perron states we can use it. They have no evidence that their active brake mode will interfere with the warhead motor, but this is a very, very expensive motor, and I don't really want to risk break it for a little bit more trigger response. So this motor is about 129 euros. I have no clue how much this is in your country, but for me this is a lot of money, and I will just try my best to not damage it. You may have realized I did not unpack this motor. This is because I just got it out before I started with everything, and I just brought the bevel gear, or the pinion gear, motor pinion gear, in place, and I gave the motor pinion a little rubbing with sandpaper, and I gave it Loctite, the real brutal variant of Loctite, so it won't get loose at any time. So now the warhead is on, and you may realize this thing is a lot faster now. I will just try to adjust motor height to make the sound a little better. On a video, most of the time you may not hear any difference, but for me, on the workshop, there is definitely a different sound. Okay, actually I think it may be possible to hear a difference. In this case, it was quite clear when we got the motor a little bit too tight in. Okay, so now we can reassemble this thing. Perun gives us 2 lengths of wire, and we need to add a plug to them later. Okay, fast forward, and then alright, interesting part here. You need to make sure the cables are placed very well. The warhead also has a little issue because the cables may be a little long and the connectors may be a little bit bad. But what I just wanted to tell you here is you have to be careful with every AK that the motor grip will not get too tight with the motor and push it downwards, because this will be as if you had just got the motor screw too tight, and it will screech every time. So you may just get it halfway closed and then push the motor back a little bit. Most of the time this will work. Okay, now we are placing the signal wires for the ETU. We can just get rid of this hop part to place the ETU below that. The cables actually were designed for the old hop design from Arcturus, which would have made it really easy to just drop the ETU beneath to the side of this hop unit, and this would have been very nice if you're doing this with a new version and the new hop. You may place the ETU below. Maybe you need to grind a little bit from this spacer part below the hop, but actually, yeah, it works quite fine. And we can store the cables later in the gas tube, which is nice because most of the time the batteries will not fit the gas tube anyway, and so we can place all the plug stuff in there, and the battery without any cable trouble gets under the dust cover, or the dust cover thingy thing the Centaur B has. Alright, now there is this cap here which works as a magwell spacer, which is nice. You can't just get the mags in there and clamp them, which is good. And yeah, I just cut the wires here. I tend to solder the connectors just cause these are way better than. Yes, and that's it. I think we're close to finishing this. You can just store the connectors here very nicely on the side of the gearbox, and yeah, if this is done, we are quite fine. So we can just push the cables a little down, get them a little to the front. This thing, never disassemble it, just get it out one piece, push it in, back in one piece. Makes the life easier. Alright, so this thing actually is finished working replica. Everything else is cosmetic now, so we can try this thing out. Let's grab a magazine, let's grab a battery, let's go. Ignore the green light blinking, this is only for the German version. Okay, final step. Chrono test. With 0.2s we got 1.5 joules. Of course it will get low a little bit if we go for heavier BBs, but I'm quite happy with this for the standard spring.